I'll go ahead and get started with my housekeeping. Welcome again. I'm seeing a lot of repeat names, so you're just going to be hearing the same housekeeping commentary for all of this, for all those sessions. But again, welcome to the third conference session. Please do write down these email addresses or if you have any questions, either tech related or not. We will be monitoring the emails as well as the questions box. Just to introduce myself, my name is Alejandra Del Toro, and I am the Education and Community Coordinator with Empower Idaho. I know most of you are familiar with Empower Idaho, but I do just want to share a little bit about us. We offer provider trainings, education, and advocacy for adults with behavioral health conditions here in Idaho. As you can see, we have our awesome presenter here, Monica Forbes, who will be telling us all good things about boundaries. And then just a quick overview with the control panel. Everyone is muted and your webcam is off. So the way that you'll communicate is through the questions drop-down box that is in the control panel. So that is not only for questions, that's for comments and questions. This is going to be an interactive session, so that will be where you put it all in. Everyone's saying hi, Monica, by the way.
Hi, everyone.
The slides are under the handouts drop-down box, and you can download those from there. Monica has also provided us with some reference links, and that is in a document as well. So those two are under the handouts drop-down, and you have access to download them. The CEU eligibility. So folks have to adhere to the following in order to receive that certificate. So one, attending the entirety of this session. Watching the recording won't count as you attending. You must also complete the follow-up evaluation, which is shared after the session. Within the evaluation, there are 3 content-specific questions, and 2 out of the 3 need to be answered correctly. If you don't get 2 out of 3 correctly, we can connect one-on-one and see if there's another opportunity there, but I will definitely contact you if that is the situation. And please allow us 14 business days to issue those certificates. I'll send them to your email address. So without further ado, I'll send it over to you, Monica, so you can introduce yourself and get started.
Thank you, Alejandra. And hello to everyone who's putting hello in the question box. I'm going to rely on Alejandra to let me know what you put in there and kind of keep us on track as we go through this information. It's super exciting to be here this morning and to be a part of this peer support conference. Actually, Craig, who just said hi a few minutes ago, it's actually where I met him, was at one of our peer support conferences down in Pocatello. And that's kind of one of the things I think I kind of miss is when we were able to all meet in person and network and get to know each other and look around and go, that's my tribe. These are the people that are doing the same work that I'm doing, that are running into the same situations that I am. But I am incredibly grateful to Empower Idaho and the Department of Health and Welfare for putting on this webinar for us today and letting us share information and put more tools in our tool belt as we go about our day working in peer support. So thank you all for being here today. I did want to, as Alejandra mentioned, I want this to be interactive. Anyone who knows me knows I'm super good at talking, and I can talk this whole hour, but I already know what I know, and I've already experienced what I've experienced. I'm going to be very interested in what you share and situations that you've run into that might apply or have something to do with the topics we're going to be talking about today. So please do when I ask those questions, please put your answers to them or your comments over in the questions box so that we can talk about those as a group. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and just jump in and start talking about our topic today, which is balancing roles and boundaries in peer support. And it's something that really is near and dear to my heart. But before I get into that, my next slide, sorry, is just a little bit about me. So if you don't know me, I am Monica Forbes. I am a person in long-term recovery. For me, that means I've not had opiates since 2004. So I'm kind of coming up on 18 years in recovery this year. I'm also a nationally certified peer recovery support specialist with NIDA. I'm a certified recovery coach supervisor, a certified NIDA addiction policy forum trainer, CRAFT trained, and for those of you who don't know, CRAFT stands for Community Reinforcement and Family Training. And I'm the founder of Peer Wellness Center, the Recovery Community Center in Boise, and now the CEO of Recovery United, which owns and operates 3 recovery community centers in Idaho. So my experience in peer support started back in 2014. I was actually in college to become a substance abuse counselor and heard about this idea of a recovery center and just got super excited about being able to actually use my lived experience to help others. And I'm quite sure, as I say this, I realize I'm talking to my tribe. That's why you got into peer support. You were going to take something that you've learned in your life, something that was a challenge and was difficult to navigate, but you did. And you're in recovery now, whether that's mental health, whether it's substance use disorder, whatever it is, and you have it in your heart to share what you've learned and be of support to others who are also looking at either initiating or maintaining their own recovery. And that's what makes us just super important when you look at a continuum of care. Historically, before we came along, all there were clinicians. So that's a little bit of what we're going to dive into today. Today, the 3 objectives that we're going to discuss and kind of take a look at are exploring the complex boundary and dual relationships that happen in peer supports. We are in a unique niche, which I know you know. And with that comes some unique challenges, and learning how to navigate those is super easy. But first we have to identify that it is complex. It is a little bit different than our clinical supervisors or the provider we work for or the agency we work for or the recovery community center that we work for. So we're going to just take a look at what that looks like. We're also going to look at what are the applicable peer support ethical considerations? What are our standards? We're going to take a look at practical strategies that help us be the best peer support that we can in our peer support relationships. So, when we look at being peer support workers, what's our role? What are our boundaries? I mean, this is something we probably ask ourselves several times a week, if not several times a day. And that's become complex mostly because although peer supports are no longer in their infancy, we've had peer supports in Idaho since probably, I would say 2013, 2014, where it started being formalized and actually becoming a vocation, a career, a profession. And all of us work in a variety of different situations and environments. Some of us, as I mentioned, work in recovery centers. Some of us work in hospitals. Some of us work for recovery community centers or some other recovery support place. Some of us work in transitional and recovery housing. There's just a wide variety as our profession has grown of different situations that we have found we can fill a gap in that continuum of care. as that's been going though, what criminal justice, I can't believe I forgot that. Peer supports in criminal justice, scientifically, the data shows that peer supports are highly effective in helping people who have criminal justice system involvement. So some recovery coaches may be working for a reentry program. They may be, we may find ourselves working at probation and parole, or for a problem-solving court, drug court, mental health court, what have you. And in each of these different roles and environments that we find ourselves, we are running into very unique situations that we could not possibly have anticipated when we were going through our peer support specialist or our recovery coach training. All of us, if you're on here today, went through training. We became certified in our field, some of us dually certified, and we signed a paper saying, yes, I agree to abide by these code of ethics. And I have no doubt that's our intention, is I want to be ethical. I want to do no harm to my client. I want to be a positive member in that continuum of care. But I have no doubt that all of us have run into situations where it just wasn't quite clear. And that's what we're going to kind of take a look at today, and where I would absolutely love your feedback and comments over in the questions as we look and dive into some of those situations that we've run into. So first of all, I mean, let's break it down. What is peer support, right? Basically, peer support involves a rich and complex relationship, right? But it's not your conventional therapeutic relationship. The people that we work with, our peers, are referred to as our clients, because that's what they've been in, that's what they need to be in order for us to have that professional relationship with them. But isn't that a little bit of a confusing thing? Like, if I'm a peer, but you're my client, how do I keep the peer-to-peer part there? How do I navigate? Are you my friend? No, you're my client. So it's really easy as we try to take peer-to-peer supports, put them into the different clinical settings that we are working in right now, and navigate. Is there a power differential between us? Do I confide in you too? One of the things that we talk about a lot is that it's actually mandated in our scope of work, in the 4 domains that recovery coaches work in the 12 areas that peer support specialists work in. Sharing our story, self-disclosure is a huge part. Do we just do it in the beginning? Do we do it different parts of our work with our clients? It's sort of it can become confusing because we do not operate in a vacuum. And then on top of that, we have to balance relationships with our supervisors, with the agency that we're with probation officers and case managers and judges and all of the other people that are a part of this person's and our client's support system and care team. So collaborating with them, figuring out who we are with our clients, where our alliance and our allegiance is, who our priority is, becomes really, really important. Our role as a peer support worker is that we have an intentional relationship. And the fact that we understand where they are and what they're going through it makes us like each other. I tell clients all the time, I'm one of us. And I know you probably do too, in your own words. We are there to support transformation and growth. That's our job, is to support it, not make it, not mandate it, but to support as our client grows by sharing our life experience. it's an important component because just the fact that you and me right now are in recovery gives hope to the people that we have the privilege of working with. We're not only encouraging them and facilitating an environment around them that helps them own their own recovery, but we're showing them that it's possible just by being who we are, just by the experience that we've been through and the success that we've had in our own lives. Peer support provides an opportunity to give back. I don't know about you, but that's one of my favorite things at the end of the day, is that I believe my recovery is a gift, and being able to pay that forward. They use the word give back. I like it, pay it forward. I get to pay forward all of the help and support that I got when I was early in my recovery. And honestly, 18 years later, I still get every day in my recovery. So, but it's not just about them, and it's not just about their recovery. It's not just about me and my recovery. My relationship with my clients is that mutual empowerment. It's not just, hey, can I help you with your crisis and can I just be here for you? It's also allowing our clients to be there for us and be a part of our support system too. What we do know as we navigate all of this is that peer support is absolutely an integral part of everyone's recovery. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. It happens with support. So that's what peer support is. It sounds a little ambiguous, especially when we start getting into some of those situations that are in that gray area. But at the end of the day, bottom line, this is what we have all agreed to as peer support workers that we are here to do. So the next thing I want to look at though is, whoops, I went too far. That part about I'm one of us. We're like each other. And hi, my stepson Wyatt's coming in here. Where's Daddy?
Where's that?
Can you find Daddy?
Monica.
Monica's, yeah. Can you find Daddy? Thank you. Sorry, he lives with autism and he's visiting us today. I apologize for that. So back to what I was thinking. I'm so sorry, you guys. I lost my train of thought. The fact that we are like each other, we are peers, we are one of us. It's reminded me of a word that we think is really important when we look at the importance of peer support, and that is the word is called solidarity. Have you guys heard that before? Solidarity just means this is what I share with my client, above and beyond the training I've received, above and beyond the job duties and my job description and the things I do to work as a peer support worker. What makes what I do with my clients the most impactful is that my clients and I have solidarity. We have an awareness, a shared interest. We have shared experiences, and even though it may not be the same, my walk wasn't the same as Craig's walk, or Cassie's walk was a little bit different than mine, as is the same with every single client that we work with. But what's magical about our relationship with our clients as peer support workers is that solidarity. The thing about solidarity, though, is that while we are similar, and while we have a less of a power differential than our coworkers, who might be the counselor, the case manager, the PO, the judge, we have a different area that we work in, and it's that solidarity. But when we take a look at that, that can raise a lot of situations where I have to remain a professional, but at the same time, I'm still one of us. I mean, where's that line? I'm going to propose to you today, as we discuss about this, that you consider that line is different with every situation and different with every client. And what do I mean by that? we're going to talk about some of those situations. What I may share with one client may not be the same as what I share with another. My boundaries with one client may be different than the boundaries I have with another one. But how did we come to those boundaries, and how do I enforce those boundaries? And how does my client enforce their boundaries with me? That's what we're going to kind of get into here. So it creates a situation, though, that solidarity risks. The other thing that it can create a challenge in is that when I keep reminding myself, and my client looks at me and I look at them as we are us. We belong to the same thing. We are both in recovery. We both are navigating our recovery and managing our diagnosis, our situation individually, but this is what we have in common. But when we do that, we create an opportunity for creating a shift where the work that we are to be doing and the support we're to be doing to our peer support and to our client as a peer support worker might shift the focus off of what we're supposed to be doing for them, and it can sometimes shift back to what about me? Remember, self-disclosure, allowing our clients to provide support to us as well, can create a challenging situation because it's taking the focus off of what the client needs right now and putting it back on us. And so where's that line? Where's that balance? One of the things I want to ask you guys is this question, so get ready to type. First question, can you share just briefly a situation with us? Make sure that you hit send to all, where your self-disclosure to a client helped build that solidarity and that peer-to-peer relationship. So share a situation, think for a minute, and just put this in the questions box here. When have I used self-disclosure? So I'm going to give you an example. The client, you go to meet with them at your 10 o'clock appointment, and you're having a bit of a stressful day. You've had some bad news. You've had some things going on. You're kind of in a little bit of a funk. And your client says, well, how are you doing today? And you go into, well, gosh, I had this happen. I had that happen. I'm really struggling with this right now. And somehow the whole hour goes by, and the entire session with that client was about you, not about the client. That's a possible negative one. Another one is, on a positive, is that a client says, hey, I feel like I'm the only one who's going through this. I don't feel like anyone understands the challenges I'm facing. And you're able to share, yeah, actually, I do know. I went through a very similar situation. This is how I managed it. This is how I got that to go. So I am not able to see the questions as they're popping up here. So I'm wondering if Alejandra could maybe read some of them to us.
Hey, Monica. Do you see the questions box?
I see the box, but I can't, for some reason, the way the box is set up on the site, I can't read them.
Oh, gotcha. Okay, I just wanted to make sure if you could see that, but I'm more than happy to share a couple comments that folks have been making.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course. So let me see here. I gotta scroll up. So someone says, I wanted to go on the road with rock stars and ride motorcycles while helping them make good choices. I have worked in crisis centers, inpatient, outpatient treatment, and recovery community centers. Someone else suggested that they, meaning Recovery Idaho and Optum, insist that we do not use the term client and that they are either peers or members, and client is reserved for clinical staff. We have the comment, there's always a power differential, it is our job to minimize it as best as we can. For me, I personally attempt to get them away from my cubicle and talk outside to allow them to get more comfortable. And then we have the other comment. We actually do a lot of group activities outside of the offices along the lines of sober activities. It helps promote social skills. I have had a guy come in after incarceration and thought that he had dug a hole so deep that he would never be able to be successful. I disclosed to him that I had been incarcerated myself, and when I had never given up on myself, it inspired him to have a major drive to not give up on himself. And then a couple more. A man was having a hard time moving on after he got into some legal issues, and I talked to him about my situation that was very similar, and we were able to bond, and he found hope where he was struggling with hopelessness. When I shared my accomplishments with acquiring an education, it inspires them. This has happened more than once. Shared fears and how I coached peers knew she was not alone. Then peer focused on her tools to cope. Okay.
It's powerful then, you know, it's completely powerful, that solidarity that we have. And I respect, I don't know who made that comment, but I have heard that too. I get two different conflicting things, like their peers, their clients. Don't call them clients. You know, I think a lot of us in some situations, I get, depending on where we work and who we're talking to, get that in and of itself is confusing. Is this my peer or is this my client? I want to respect that. So please forgive me because I've kind of gotten conditioned to using the word client. I'm not disregarding that comment. I think it's valid. I wish we had some clarity on it, but I think it's also an example of some of the conflicting information that we get and the way that we are to interact. We're not clinical, but we almost get put into that clinical, we're in that clinical box because we are paraprofessionals. This is a professional relationship that I'm having with my client. So those are all really good examples. And I like that.
We had a couple, well, quite a few more come through, but just in the interest of time, I'll make them available for the attendees to view and read other people's thoughts and let you continue with your presentation.
All right, thank you. And thank you for reading those.
Yeah, of course.
I see them scroll, but then they're gone and I can't read the whole thing. So thank you for that. So these situations, those were actually really, really good situations. Definitely on the positive side, where showing our solidarity, showing that we are one of us was a benefit to the client. I kind of started and got a little bit ahead of myself when I started asking my second question of you, which was, when has it ever not been helpful to my client? But rather than get into that, and in the interest of time, because you guys had some really great comments to that, I just want you to think. You don't have to answer this in the questions box, but when you're in those situations, do you think effective boundaries can help prepare you for the situations that you will run into when it comes to self-disclosure and solidarity and navigating what it is to have a peer-to-peer relationship? One of the, as I looked up and I Googled, what are boundaries? I ran into a plethora of information on Google, not in my textbooks, in the things that I've read, the people I've talked to. What are boundaries? And why are they important? And the reality is, in every single relationship that you and I have, we have boundaries. They may be verbalized, they may be formal, they may be informal, they may just be assumed based on our culture, but all of us have boundaries. All of our coworkers have boundaries. All of our clients have boundaries. But as a basis and a jumping off point here, definition of boundaries. According to the Oxford Dictionary, boundary is a noun, and the plural form is boundaries. Their definition of a boundary was a line that marks the limits of an area. It's a dividing line. It says, this is where you come and this is where I come to, and we don't cross this because we respect each other. And this is a line that you and I agreed on exists between us. My grandpa used to, every time I think about boundaries, I think of a quote he used to say, which was, good fences make good neighbors. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that, but it's true. When I know what you expect of me, and you know, I know what let me say that in reverse. I know what you expect of me, and you know what I expect of you. You and I have a healthier relationship. And that can be all kinds of things. But the reason for that, the reason that we have those boundaries is that it sets the conditions and it ensures that we feel safe in this relationship, that we have comfort, there's privacy, I can rely on you, you can rely on me. That's the basic of what boundaries are. As we look at that though, one of the things that comes up is that I think there's a boundary, or our client thinks there's a boundary, and that boundary isn't there. So if boundaries are there to support a healthy relationship, what happens when those boundaries are crossed? And does that damage the relationship? Does it make it hard to relate to each other and work together? Does it take away that feeling of this is my safe space? The conditions that provide a framework for peer support relationships are very different, and they have to be flexible. I said this in the beginning, I'm going to say it again. The boundary I have with one individual will not be the same that I have with another. So let's take out there are some universal boundaries, right? We know our code of ethics and our do no harm, our professional certification, and just probably our own moral compass tells us that we're not going to have an inappropriate relationship with a peer, or we're not going to, we may have to violate that boundary we had with each other for safety reasons. What's said here stays here, right? However, if you're a threat to yourself or to others, if there's child abuse, elder abuse, we have a duty to report. So we know those things. You guys, we've talked about them. We talk about them all the time. We run into them. I'm talking outside of those hardcore lines that there are basics for, that we know these are the rules and this is where I operate. But outside of those, where did those boundaries come from that I have developed with my peer, or with my coworkers, or with my kids, or with my spouse, or with my parents? Where did they come from? So that's my next question to you, if you wouldn't mind, and if Alejandra won't mind thinking for a minute. Who decides what a boundary is in a relationship? That's my question. Who decides what the boundaries are? Do you decide as a peer support worker? Does the agency or your employer decide what those boundaries are? Does the client decide? Does the client have any say? I'm sorry for using the word client. I apologize. It's not, it's a habit. But does my peer get to decide, or the other party in this relationship, do they get to decide what that boundary is? Do they have any say in that?
Okay.
Everyone in the relationship. I can read that one before it goes away.
Yes, so the comments, everyone, and I also want to know, there are some answers that are a bit longer than others, and again, just for the interest of time, I'm just going to summarize them. So I will occasionally share with a peer the struggle to maintain power balance. I'll share that I go to a 12-step meeting and get a dose of humility so that I am really just one of us. Someone said everyone decides, everyone in the relationship. It's a combined effort. My ethics do.
Mhm.
Both parties, yeah, combination. That's mainly what everybody's saying.
Okay. Both have input. I can read that one.
Mhm.
Okay, so I apologize. I may have a setting wrong over on that side, but all I see is like the last line as the comment comes and then it disappears. So definitely the peer. I can't read the whole thing. But, okay,
You might need
perfect.
to expand that window.
I wish I knew how. But it says dot control panel to screen. I'm not sure. That's definitely, you guys just, totally learning GoToWebinar. Had a crash course on it this week with Alejandra, but I can't wait to actually read the comments after the webinar. Well, in the interest of time, I appreciate so much you putting those in there. I'm very much looking forward to doing it. But if I understand correctly, I think you guys agree with me. At the end of the day, whoever's in the relationship, both parties have the opportunity to decide what those boundaries are. So would you agree with me that the basis of what we've been told we should be using to set those boundaries is actually our code of ethics that we as paraprofessionals have signed, saying these are the code of ethics that I am going to follow? I'm going to assume you said yes. And really quick, I just want to share with you what our peer support ethical guidelines say about boundaries. And there's a reason for this. I know you've already read this. I know you've already signed a piece of paper saying these are the code of ethics that I am going to adhere to. The national, as I told you, I'm a national certified peer recovery support specialist through NIDA. And it says, I will clearly explain my role and responsibilities to those that I serve. I'll terminate the relationship when it's no longer a benefit to the client, and I will respect the rights of the person to terminate services at his or her request. I will not engage in sexual activities or personal relationships with the person served in my role as a peer support specialist or members of their immediate family. I will set clear, appropriate, and culturally sensitive boundaries with all the people that I serve. And if at any point I feel that I am unable to meet any of these requirements, I will immediately cease performance as a peer recovery support specialist and seek professional assistance. That's what, if you're nationally certified, that's what we agreed to do. If you are a recovery coach certified through the IBA-DCC, you said, I will never engage in sexual or intimate activities with colleagues or those that they serve. I will not accept gifts of significant value, and I will not enter into dual relationships or commitments that conflict with the interests of the individuals that I'm serving. If you are a, did I go the wrong way? Let's see, we have Idaho, NADAC. This is actually, I have the wrong link up there, my deepest apologies, but this is actually Idaho Peer Support Specialist, and the link to these is in the handout that is listed over in that box over on the right-hand side of your screen. I have the correct link and the correct name in there, but the Idaho Peer Support Specialist Code of Ethics says I'll clearly explain my role and responsibilities. I'll terminate the relationship if it's no longer serving the individual. I'll request a change. I won't engage in inappropriate relationships. I will set clear, appropriate, and culturally sensitive boundaries. It's pretty much the same as our Idaho Recovery Coach Code of Ethics, right? But what do I do in situations where I have a situation and nothing in those Code of Ethics tells me what is the right way to handle the situation? It doesn't tell me what is the right thing to do. It's that gray area. It's that area that even though we went through training and we took the test and we passed it and we got the job and we're out there doing it and we're taking care of people, it's those gray areas that nobody ever prepared us for. What do I do in situations that policies and procedures in my agency and my professional code of ethics are not clear? They don't clearly dictate what is the right way to handle that situation. And I want you to think, I'm going to be real specific here. Here's our next exercise. If you wouldn't mind, in the questions, think of a situation where you had a boundary or an ethical issue with a client, and the code of ethics and the policies and procedures of your organization did not clearly define what you should do. So my question is, you have that situation in your head now. The question is, where did you get the information or the advice you needed to make the decision? Where did you go? Who did you talk to? Who helped you find an answer to that gray area? Alejandra, I'm so sorry. I'm going to need your assistance again because I still can't read those.
No, you are totally fine. I was just starting to answer a tech-related issue, but if one of my colleagues can get to that, please do so. So we have the comments. I would go to my supervisor and ask for their input. Nothing is black and white. It's different shades of gray. I really love that. I asked myself, WWMFD, what would Monica Forbes do?
Oh no, stop.
That's
really poor policy. I'm just saying. Let's see.
That's hilarious. Yeah, talking to your supervisor is a lot of the responses that we are coming in.
That's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
That's perfect. I love that. And I'm going to tell you why. I think a lot of times we feel like I have to figure this out on my own. And I'm doing the best I can. I have the right intentions. But this is like something I couldn't have made this up. Like I don't know. I'm not prepared for this situation. And at the end of the day, absolutely. Not to spoil your any of the quizzes or questions you might be asked at some point, but that's the right answer. Talk to your supervisor. Talk to your supervisor. And if that's all you get from this entire hour of us spending time today talking about this gray area in boundaries and ethics and stuff, that's the answer. There's just no way to anticipate some of those situations. And really quickly, as I was talking with some of my coworkers and preparing my thoughts for today's webinar, some of the situations that we started thinking about were situations where the code of ethics didn't apply. We didn't have policies and procedures in our agency that addressed different situations. But some of those situations included hugging. We do not have a hugging policy in our agency, but some of you do, I know you do. And it's not just the policy that goes into that. Don't you think it's also important to consider, is my client, is the person I'm serving, are they comfortable with hugging? What's an appropriate hug? Am I okay with hugging? Do I prefer not to touch people, or does it make me comfortable or uncomfortable? Who initiates the hug? What if I'm a hugger, but the person I'm working with, that's just not their thing? It makes them very uncomfortable. How is that boundary established? These are things to think about, not necessarily answer, unless there's something that you would like to share with the rest of us right now. But another common gray area that we run into a lot as peer support specialists and paraprofessionals, if you will, are social media. Do I add people that I'm supporting as friends on Facebook? Do I share my Instagram feed? If I do, am I looking at them and following them on there? There's sometimes it's not a clear-cut answer. And I see a lot of reasons why certain agencies prohibit it. And I see a lot of reasons why some agencies say, yeah, we need to have that. One example is that if you have a person you're working with who doesn't have a cell phone, that could be the only, or cell phone service, if you will, that could be the only form of connection and communication that you have between you and that client. Is it okay? Is it not okay? The answer is that is up to you, the client, and who you work for, because it's not defined in our code of ethics. It's really up to you. What are you, and not forgetting, you have agency rules and you have clients' wishes and boundaries, but yours are important too. Am I okay with this? Am I not okay with this? Am I okay with it with one client, but not so much with another? Gray area. There's no cookie cutter approach to these types of things. So at the end of the day, I think the most important part of knowing what to do in some of these gray areas, the only thing I've come up with is that I have to know myself, my core values, and I need to know what I'm okay with and what I'm not okay with. That's number one. Number two, I need to ask and communicate with my employer and with the person I'm serving, what is okay and what's not okay. What are you comfortable with? What are you not comfortable with? And then after we're done with that, everyone gets together and says, this is our mutually agreed set of boundaries in this particular relationship. I feel like I'm saying, hey, I don't have all the answers, but the reality is I don't when we get into these gray areas, because there is no right answer, no wrong answer outside of those concrete things that we never break, that are completely unethical, immoral, against company policy, against the rules and ethics that our profession has agreed on. Outside of those core things, this really has to be a case-by-case, individual basis. What are your thoughts on that? And I really wish this was interactive. I am so much better at talking and talking to people and interacting in that respect. So I'm trying to adapt the way I share information to this format. But one of the thoughts I was thinking of as I was putting this material together and doing the research on it, and if I haven't mentioned it already, a lot of the information being shared today, there's a link to a presentation that I attended with Massachusetts on boundaries and appropriate boundaries and the complexities of those boundaries in the peer support workforce. So a link to the entire presentation is in the handout, and it really ended up being not only shared information, but very thought-provoking. So at the end of the day, what I'm hoping today is that you're thinking about this. You're aware of the complexities of balancing our roles, discovering and determining and then maintaining those boundaries in these relationships that we have with the people that we're serving and supporting in their recovery as a peer support worker. And just thinking, because there's no right answer, no wrong answer at the end of the day. Let's see here. One quote that I think some of you touched on in the comments that we read during our first question, just by being who we are is what gives hope. I want to add to that, not just being in recovery, but we need to be mindful of the fact that how we implement boundaries, how we enforce boundaries, is also setting an example to the people that we're serving. A lot of the people that we're serving are new to their recovery. They're figuring out what are boundaries, how do I set them effectively? How do they, they're not only going to be the boundaries that we set with our relationship in peer-to-peer work is not just healthy for our relationship, but we are role modeling how we set boundaries to those that we work with. And we're probably role modeling them to our coworkers as well. So, and I think it was brilliant. Albert Einstein said, setting an example is not the main means of influencing others. It's the only means. Think about that. What that means to me is that no matter what I say to my clients or to the people I'm working with, they're not going to hear what I say as much as they're going to be influenced by what I do. And I think we need to remain mindful of that, and that we need to remember that that's an important part of our peer-to-peer relationship. I do appreciate very much that Jan Carlson took it just a step further and said, you know what, I can't read the whole thing, but setting a good example is the most effective means of communication. It's also can be the most damaging. But we best teach others about healthy boundaries by enforcing our own. That's just, at the end of the day, one of the best ways that we reinforce the importance of healthy relationships with those that we're serving. I realize that we're kind of running out of time here. So what I wanted to do was just really quickly, you'll see this in the PowerPoint that's being shared, and I hope that you can maybe stick this somewhere, save it somewhere on your drive, or maybe print it out and put it above your desk. But at the end of the day, boundaries are about honoring respect in the relationship. These are just a few things that you might want to ask yourself and think about in order to effectively show respect. And it's just talking about, you know, that respect is about trust. It's about accountability. It's about safety, honesty, support, and a cooperation between the two people in that professional relationship. The other things this is the last slide here before I let you, maybe we'll open it up if we have a couple of minutes. Looks like we have about 6 minutes for questions. Is the phases of being able to set a boundary. This is just a reference point for you to go back to if you're ever like, well, how do I do that? One, establish what the boundary is with both parties. State what the boundaries are, be very clear. Commit to keeping that boundary. And assert your rights. But I want to emphasize the word assert here. Being assertive is completely the opposite of being aggressive. Asserting is simply calmly, kindly saying, this is who I am, what I'm about, and that's what this is. I'm going to speak with respect and let you know that this is where I stand on this. So it makes it sound like it's so simple to set a boundary. They just put it there in 4 little steps, but you and I both know that it can be muddy, and I hope that our discussion today has got you thinking about ways that you might improve boundaries in your relationships with your clients, with your coworkers, that you may improve those boundaries that are absolutely essential to the healthy relationship that I know you want to have with your clients. So my last few words are just this. One, in order to do this effectively in your professional relationships, know yourself and take care of yourself. Practice self-care. It is so, so, so important. Create a supportive and respectful relationship, not only with the people you serve, but with your coworkers and your friends and your family. And whenever in doubt, as many of you have said, always, always, always consult your supervisor or your employer for assistance when needed. You don't have to figure this out by yourself. Some of these situations are messy. There's no clear-cut answer. Get assistance from your support system to make sure that those boundaries you're setting are healthy. That is literally all I had to share with you in the research and the information I was able to pull together for this topic. And I am interested, though, if there's any questions thoughts, comments from you. This is also in the PowerPoint slide that I was sent out to you.
We don't have any questions yet, but a couple comments. Really great quote, obviously, actions speak louder than words. Great one, actually, a couple people said that. And then people won't remember what we say or what we do, but how we made them feel.
Oh, I love that one. That one's so true. So true.
Mm.
No questions then? You're welcome. I think it says it's so small. I will figure out in the future how to actually read those questions. All right, I'm gonna turn it back over to you.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you for attending, folks. Instead of saying my full CEU spiel, I encourage you to please reference the email that was sent to you with all of the information and requirements. It was sent twice yesterday and today, so if you didn't receive that, please check your spam folder or just send us an email, and our team will take a look into that and try to provide that support. And everyone's saying thank you. So yes, thank you, Monica.
Thank you. Thank you guys for hanging out with me for an hour and discussing this. I appreciate it. I look forward to reading the comments.
Yes, thank you for a great presentation. I'll see everybody. Yes, have a good day, and I'll see everyone in 30 minutes, hopefully.
Thank you.